Cherokee people. Cherokee, North American Indians of Iroquoian lineage who constituted one of the largest politically integrated tribes at the time of European colonization of the Americas. Their name is derived from a Creek word meaning people of different speech. Many prefer to be known as Kituwa or Tsalagi. They are believed to have numbered some 22,500 individuals in 1650, and they controlled approximately 40,000 square miles, 100,000 square km, of the Appalachian Mountains in parts of present-day Georgia, eastern Tennessee, and the western parts of what are now North Carolina and South Carolina. Traditional Cherokee life and culture greatly resembled that of the Creek and other tribes of the Southeast. The Cherokee Nation was composed of a confederacy of symbolically red, war, and white, peace, towns. The chiefs of individual red towns were subordinated to a supreme war chief, while the officials of individual white towns were under the supreme peace chief. The peace towns provided sanctuary for wrongdoers. War ceremonies were conducted in red towns. When encountered by Spanish explorers in the mid-16th century, the Cherokee possessed a variety of stone implements, including knives, axes, and chisels. They wove baskets, made pottery, and cultivated corn, maize, beans, and squash. Deer, bear, and elk furnished meat and clothing. Cherokee dwellings were bark-roofed windowless log cabins, with one door and a smoke hole in the roof. A typical Cherokee town had between 30 and 60 such houses and a council house, where general meetings were held and a sacred fire burned. An important religious observance was the Busk, or Green Corn, festival, a first fruits and new fires celebration. The Spanish, French, and English all attempted to colonize parts of the Southeast, including Cherokee territory. By the early 18th century the tribe had chosen alliance with the British in both trading and military affairs. During the French and Indian War, 1754–63, they allied themselves with the British. The French had allied themselves with several Iroquoian tribes, which were the Cherokees' traditional enemies. By 1759 the British had begun to engage in a scorched earth policy that led to the indiscriminate destruction of native towns, including those of the Cherokee and other British allied tribes. Tribal economies were seriously disrupted by British actions. In 1773 the Cherokee and the Creek had to exchange a portion of their land to relieve the resulting indebtedness, ceding more than 2 million acres, more than 809,000 hectares, in Georgia through the Treaty of Augusta. In 1775 the Overhill Cherokee were persuaded at the Treaty of Sycamore Shoals to sell an enormous tract of land in central Kentucky to the privately owned Transylvania Land Company. Although land sales to private companies violated British law, the treaty nevertheless became the basis for the colonial settlement of that area. As the American War of Independence loomed, the Transylvania Land Company declared its support of the revolutionaries. The Cherokee became convinced that the British were more likely to enforce boundary laws than a new government and announced their determination to support the Crown. Despite British attempts to restrain them, a force of 700 Cherokee under Chief Dragging Canoe attacked the colonist-held forts of Eaton Station and Fort Watauga, in what is now North Carolina, in July 1776. Both assaults failed, and the tribe retreated in disgrace. Those raids were the first in a series of attacks by Cherokee, Creek, and Choctaw on frontier towns, eliciting a vigorous response by militia and regulars of the southern colonies during September and October. At the end of that time, Cherokee power was broken, their crops and villages destroyed, and their warriors dispersed. The defeated tribe sued for peace. In order to obtain it, they were forced to surrender vast tracts of territory in North and South Carolina at the Treaty of DeWitt's Corner, May 20, 1777, and the Treaty of Long Island of Halston, July 20, 1777. Peace reigned for the next 2 years. When Cherokee raids flared up in 1780 during the American preoccupation with British armed forces elsewhere, punitive action led by Colonel Arthur Campbell and Colonel John Sevier subdued the tribe again. The Second Treaty of Long Island of Halston, July 26, 1781, confirmed previous land cessions and caused the Cherokee to yield additional territory. After 1800 the Cherokee were remarkable for their assimilation of American settler culture. The tribe formed a government modeled on that of the United States. Under Chief Junaluska they aided Andrew Jackson against the Creek in the Creek War, particularly in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. They adopted colonial methods of farming, weaving, and home building. Perhaps most remarkable of all was the syllabary of the Cherokee language, developed in 1821 by Sequoyah, a Cherokee who had served with the U.S. Army in the Creek War. The syllabary, a system of writing in which each symbol represents a syllable, was so successful that almost the entire tribe became literate within a short time. A written constitution was adopted, and religious literature flourished, including translations from the Christian scriptures. Native Americans' first newspaper, the Cherokee Phoenix, began publication in February 1828. The Cherokees' rapid acquisition of settler culture did not protect them against the land hunger of those they emulated. When gold was discovered on Cherokee land in Georgia, agitation for the removal of the tribe increased. In December 1835 the Treaty of New Echota, signed by a small minority of the Cherokee, ceded to the United States all Cherokee land east of the Mississippi River for $5 million. The overwhelming majority of tribal members repudiated the treaty and took their case to the U.S. Supreme Court. The court rendered a decision favorable to the tribe, declaring that Georgia had no jurisdiction over the Cherokee and no claim to their land. Georgia officials ignored the court's decision, President Andrew Jackson refused to enforce it, and Congress passed the Indian Removal Act of 1830 to facilitate the eviction of tribal members from their homes and territory. Removal was implemented by 7,000 troops commanded by General Winfield Scott. Scott's men moved through Cherokee territory, forcing many people from their homes at gunpoint. As many as 16,000 Cherokee were thus gathered into camps while their homes were plundered and burned by local Euro-American residents. Subsequently those refugees were sent west in 13 overland detachments of about 1,000 per group, the majority on foot. Additional groups of varying sizes were led by Captain John Benge, part Cherokee John Bell, and Principal Chief John Ross. The eviction and forced march, which came to be known as the Trail of Tears, took place during the fall and winter of 1838-39. Although Congress had allocated funds for the operation, it was badly mismanaged, and inadequate food supplies, shelter, and clothing led to terrible suffering, especially after frigid weather arrived. The trail cost the Indians nearly everything. They had to pay farmers for passing through lands, ferrying across rivers, even burying their dead. About 4,000 Cherokee died on the 116-day journey, many because the escorting troops refused to slow or stop so that the ill and exhausted could recover. When the main body had finally reached its new home in what is now northeastern Oklahoma, new controversies began with the settlers already there, especially other Native Americans, notably the Osage and the Cherokee group that had immigrated there after the Treaty of 1817. As a result of the struggle for territory, relations between the Osage and the Cherokee had long been fractious. In many respects, settlement in Indian Territory was even more difficult than negotiating the trail and took more time. Feuds and murders rent the tribe as reprisals were made on those who had signed the Treaty of New Echota. In Oklahoma, the Cherokee joined 4 other tribes: the Creek, Chickasaw, Choctaw, and Seminole, see also Black Seminole, all of which had been forcibly removed from the Southeast by the U.S. government in the 1830s. For 3/4 of a century, each tribe had a land allotment and a quasi-autonomous government modeled on that of the United States. In preparation for Oklahoma statehood, 1907, some of that land was allotted to individual tribal members, the rest was opened up to homesteaders, held in trust by the federal government, or allotted to freed slaves. Tribal governments were effectively dissolved in 1906 but have continued to exist in a limited form. At the time of removal in 1838, a few hundred individuals escaped to the mountains and furnished the nucleus for the several thousand Cherokee who were living in western North Carolina in the 21st century. Early 21st century population estimates indicated more than 730,000 individuals of Cherokee descent living across the United States. Cherokee Ancestry. Cherokee Ancestry. About 200 years ago, the Cherokee Indians were one tribe, or Indian nation, that lived in the southeast part of what is now the United States. During the 1830s and 1840s, the period covered by the Indian Removal Act, many Cherokees were moved west to a territory that is now the state of Oklahoma. A number remained in the southeast and gathered in North Carolina, where they purchased land and continued to live. Others went into the Appalachian Mountains to escape being moved west, and many of their descendants may still live there now. Today, individuals of Cherokee ancestry fall into the following categories. Living persons who were listed on the final rolls of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, Dawes Commission rolls, that were approved, and descendants of these persons. These final rolls were closed in 1907. Individuals enrolled as members of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians of North Carolina and their descendants who are eligible for enrollment with the band. Persons on the list of members identified by a resolution dated April 19, 1949, and certified by the Superintendent of the 5 Civilized Tribes Agency and their descendants who are eligible for enrollment with the United Kiowa Band of Cherokee Indian of Oklahoma. All other persons of Cherokee Indian ancestry. Category 1. After about a half-century of self-government, a law enacted in 1906 directed that final rolls be made and that each enrollee be given an allotment of land or paid cash in lieu of an allotment. The Cherokees formally organized in 1975 with the adoption of a new constitution that superseded the 1839 Cherokee Nation Constitution. This new constitution establishes a Cherokee register for the inclusion of any Cherokee for membership purposes in the Cherokee Nation. Members must be citizens as proven by reference to the Dawes Commission rolls. Including in this are the Delaware Cherokees of Article 2 of the Delaware Agreement dated May 8, 1867, and the Shawnee Cherokees of Article 3 of the Shawnee Agreement dated June 9, 1869, and or their descendants. PL 100-472, authorizes through a planning and negotiation process Indian tribes to administer and manage programs, activities, function, and services previously managed by the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Pursuant to PL 100-472, the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma has entered into a self-governance compact and now provides those services previously provided by the BIA. Enrollment and allotment records are maintained by the Cherokee Nation. Any question with regard to the Cherokee Nation should be referred to Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma. P.O. Box 948. Tahlequah, Oklahoma, 74465. 918-456-0671. Fax 918-456-6485. Category 2. The Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians of North Carolina is a federally recognized tribe and has its own requirements for membership. Inquiries as to these requirements, or for information shown in the records, may be addressed to BIA's Cherokee Agency, Cherokee, North Carolina 28719, 704-497-9131, or Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, P.O. Box 455, Cherokee, North Carolina 28719, 207-497-2771, ask for the Tribal Enrollment Office. Fax 704-497-2952. Category 3. By the Act of August 10, 1946, 60 Stat 976, Congress recognized the United Kiowa Band of Cherokee Indians in Oklahoma, UKB, for the purposes of organizing under the Oklahoma Indian Welfare Act. In 1950, the UKB organized under a constitution and bylaws approved by the Secretary of the Interior. Members of the UKB consist of all persons whose names appear on the list of members identified by a resolution dated April 19, 1949, and certified by the Superintendent of the Five Civilized Tribes Agency on November 26, 1949, with the governing body of the UKB having the power to prescribe rules and regulations governing future membership. The supreme governing body, UKB Council, consists of 9 members, elected to represent the 9 districts of the Old Cherokee Nation, and 4 officers, elected at large. Information may be obtained by writing. United Kiowa Band of Cherokee Indians, P.O. Box 746, Tahlequah, Oklahoma 74465-9432, 918-456-5491. Fax 918-456-9601. Category 4. Information about Indian ancestry of individuals in this category of Cherokees is more difficult to locate. This is primarily because the federal government has never maintained a list of all the persons of Cherokee Indian descent, indicating their tribal affiliation, degree of Indian blood, or other data. In order to establish Cherokee ancestry, you should use the same methods prescribed in Indian ancestry and genealogical research material. Reference directories: Indian Ancestry and Genealogical Research.